Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. It is Friday, so of course we're going to do requests, but I was requested a lot of series, so we're doing all of those over the next couple weeks. Well, not couple weeks, until the end of the year at least. It's going to be a lot. But we are in the middle of the Back to the Future series. We're doing all three of them. I have them all on Blu-ray, so I'm very excited to watch them all. But today we are on part 2. So if you missed the first one, make sure you guys check that out. It's on the channel. Make sure you guys are subscribing if you like movies and talking about movies. It's what I do. I do it every single day on the channel. So if you guys are interested in talking about movies, definitely subscribe and comment down below what you guys thought of this film while I talk to you about what I thought about the film. But today we're going to be talking about Back to the Future, part 2. Back to the Future Part 2 was released in 1989. It was written by Bob Gale and directed by Robert Zemeckis. And no spoilers, of course, but this film takes place like exactly after the first one. So spoilers for the first movie, but essentially Doc Brown comes back. He's like, "Come on, you have to go back to the future with me." And he's like, "What? What do you mean, Doc?" And he's like, "Well, we gotta go." And they're like, "Okay, fine." And then they do. And then that's like where we pick up from this film. And they go to the future. They go to 2015, which for the record is nothing like what 2015 was like. And they have to figure out how they're going to stop their son from being awful. Which, for one, I feel like that can't matter, right? It's a minor issue. That is an excuse for a sequel if I've ever heard of one. They're like, what if his son is just kind of a juvenile delinquent? And they're like, okay. And then like I just honestly did not think this needed to be made at all. It's a dumb excuse for a sequel. However, it was fun. It wasn't a great film. I don't think it's nearly as good as the first one, but it is a fun film. I did enjoy myself watching it. This is filmed 4 years after the first one came out, which I thought was interesting because I thought they were released year after year, but I guess they did not film this one right away. They literally just did it and was like, oh, we should do a sequel. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they did one, I guess. And that's like crazy to me that they were just like off the cuff, like, yeah, let's make a sequel. Cool. And they just did. I know that they filmed Part 2 and Part 3 in the same year, so that was interesting at very least. I don't really know why they did that. It blows my mind. I really don't get it. Probably because the first one was very, very popular. I think that there's a lot of issues with this film. For one, the future thing, right? Which I guess would be fine if you're watching this in 1989 and you're like, oh, cool, they're going to 2015. Ooh, no one's going to see that. That's not going to exist. That's not a real year. It's a real year. And I think that might actually have contributed to the problem of the film, where nowadays when we're watching it, it is very aged, right? When you're watching Back to the Future Part 1, it isn't very aged because you know it's set in the 80s, and they go back to the past, and they go back to the future, which for them is 1985. Here, they're going to 2015, which they show is like this crazy place where like cars are flying and like it's crazy, which, yeah, we have a little bit of it, but like nothing that crazy. So for me, it just feels a really old movie. It feels older than Back to the Future Part 1, and it did not age as well as Back to the Future Part 1 at all. A lot of the jokes were kind of weak in this one, whereas in the first one they're really good. The time travel was cool, but really complicated. In the first one, they made it super easy. Like, yeah, this is the flux capacitor, and it takes you to the future. Cool. And we have a couple issues, but for the most part, they stay in, wherever, I think it's the 50s that they were in. They just stay there the whole time until they go back to 85. In this one, they're like, boop, 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 and it doesn't, they should not have done that. They lost me a couple times. I'm like, okay, where are we going now? What year is it? And, like, it's hard to follow. I think they could have made it a little bit easier to follow, especially if they just stayed in the year 2015. It would have been really easy. And also found a better excuse to go to 2015 because they did not have a good enough excuse to go to 2015. I do think that the movie itself is okay. I think it's fun to watch. It's definitely, like, it has a lot of the same perks that the first one did, where the characters are awesome. They have all the same actors, and it's just like, it's genuinely entertaining. But I don't think it's quite as much of a cinematic masterpiece as the first one, especially considering the special effects were kind of garbage, which is to be expected for 1989. But considering the first one had better special effects, this did not feel as good. They had flying cars, which honestly they didn't need, because first of all, we don't have flying cars, and it's 2021 now, which, yeah, sure, they didn't have any way of telling the actual future, but, like, come on, who's going to have flying cars? Of course, like 20 years after this comes out, we'll probably have flying cars. But whatever. The point is that I think that they could have avoided all of the really crappy looking special effects by just not putting it in the script that they needed them, right? Like if they were like, they wrote, okay, they have super fast cars, or they have cars that are wonky looking instead of just they're flying, they wouldn't have had to make cars fly and make them look really bad, because they're probably just plates, which if you don't know what a plate is, it's basically a piece of plastic with drawings on it that they move around to make it look like it has three-dimensional shape. They probably did not need to make them because they don't look very good. They probably could have avoided that and made the production value go up a little bit. And by production value, I mean like how it looks, right? Like here, you're watching this video, it doesn't look very good. It doesn't sound very good because I have a crappy microphone and a crappy camera, which hopefully soon will be changing once I get a little bit more cash flow. I will be upgrading my microphone and my camera, so make sure you guys are subscribing. So eventually I'll be able to make money off of this, so that way I can justify making purchases based off of it. But the point is that I think that the production value could have been actually heightened by lowering the amount that they spend, which people don't often think about. People are like, well, how do I get a really good product? Like, put a bunch of money into it. I don't think that this is the case here. In this case, I think it would have been better if they had slowed down, realized, okay, this does not look good. Let's just rewrite part of the script, realize that we can't physically do that and make it look good, and it might have made the movie a little bit better. I think the script is a little loose. I don't think Bob Gale did quite as good of a job here as the first one. It is very loose. It is very wacky, and to be quite honest, completely unbelievable. The first one, of course, it's about time travel, so of course it's going to be a little unbelievable. But I feel like the first one was definitely more tight in the way that it was scripted and written, in terms of not even just like the writing itself, but the storyline itself made a lot of sense. And then we go to this one, and it's like, okay, why are they going back? And it doesn't make any sense. It's a really crazy, like, ugh. But nevertheless, it is an entertaining film, which is something I can't even, like, fathom right now. I can't even, like, put together that, like, I don't think the movie is very good, but it is very fun to watch. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Back to the Future Part 2 a B+. Certainly not the best movie I've ever seen, but also far from the worst. If you're interested in checking this one out, you should, but I definitely recommend watching the first one first, mainly because it is just a lot better than this one. But if you guys like this, if you guys like talking about movies, make sure you guys are subscribing. Comment down below what you guys thought of Back to the Future Part 2. And check out my other videos. I have videos on a lot of stuff. I've got almost the entire MCU on here. I've got every Leonardo DiCaprio movie, every Steve Carell movie. I'm almost done with Quentin Tarantino, and it's crazy. So if you guys want to check all that stuff out, make sure you do. And as always, keep watching movies and television, stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.